The voice matures like the body matures. So as you age, your voice ages. So as I can see it, the greatest pro to learning how to sing early is just getting the experience in your body early, understanding certain skill aspects of it early, understanding techniques like breathing or learning warm-ups and vocalises, vocal exercises. That stuff, if you start getting on it early, means there's a better chance that you won't pick up bad habits. But even with that, when it comes to the aging voice, your voice is maturing. And when your voice matures, that means the instrument is essentially changing. So as that instrument is changing, as you age, that brings new obstacles to the voice, even when you've been singing for a very long time, even when you're a professional. As you age, you start learning new things that you then have to contend with that become new hindrances and new obstacles that just come with age. For instance, one thing I always like to tell people because it always blows people's minds, even singers. For women, we do not come into full vocal maturity until you're around 30 to 40 years old. Yes, you are hearing me correctly. Our voices do not come into full vocal maturity till you're around 30 to 40 years old. If you are an opera fan, you may notice that sometimes you'll see an opera where it's like Romeo and Juliet is a 35-year-old woman. Now, you know, in the actual story of Romeo and Juliet, and when you see plays or when you see musicals dealing with Romeo and Juliet, Juliet is usually around 18 to 20 maybe, and 20 is like leaning a bit on the older side of a Juliet, but in opera, nope, 35, 30. And that's because opera is very, very, very strict about the best voices. And when are you in your best voice as a young woman? 30. So we're not putting a 20-year-old who's still kind of figuring their voice out in the role of Juliet. We're putting a 30-year-old who's now coming into full vocal maturity as our Juliet. And I hope that makes sense. I know that blew my mind many moons ago when I first learned it. And truly, the vocal pinnacle for most voices, male or female, is 30 and older. We live in a society where we usually think somehow that 30 is the beginning of the end and where you start depreciating as a human being. But in voice, it actually is the beginning of your true voice, of your best voice. Also, something worth noting is that lower voices and darker voices take even longer to fully mature. Now, I know I've spoken about the fact that there are few true altos in the world. Most women are sopranos. They just maybe have the access to lower notes. And so if you're like in choir, for instance, you're gonna sing alto if you have a lower extension, like you can hit lower notes, or you have great musicianship and can carry your part very well. But in real life, essentially, most of us are sopranos, different versions of sopranos, but sopranos. However, if you are a darker soprano or a lower voice at all, you're going to mature a little bit slower, a little bit behind the higher, lighter voices. That's also something worth noting. That way you don't hold yourself to this unreasonable expectation that literally goes against the physics and biology of the voice. Also, another cool thing about being an aged singer is that you're likely going to pick up some of these concepts a little faster than you would have when you're younger. Something that we learn over time is how to learn. That might sound kind of crazy, but truly, there are aspects to strategies for learning that you pick up just over the experience of being in school for many years and learning things for many years. So now, as you're learning this new thing of singing, now you know how to learn for yourself, especially. Like, you'll know I'm really good when I do these particular tasks, or if I approach something with this mentality, or if I write things down, or if I take recordings, or whatever the thing is that is particular to your style of learning. You know that by a certain age, and so that makes it easier for you to pick up new concepts. Sometimes I even have students who will tell me, here's what I need you to do. This is the way I will pick this up faster. And that comes from experience learning.